Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hollywood Critics Association for Your Consideration panel for Cruel Summer. We are so happy to be here today to host this panel. Before we jump into today's conversation, we want to thank everyone at Imprint PR, as well as Emma Lewis for making today's conversation a reality. Now, without any further delay, I am pleased to welcome Chiara Aurelia. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you doing?
I am so excited to talk to you. I love this show. I became addicted to it. And the only reason I became addicted to it, and this is something that needs to be said, is that it was submitted for your consideration. If it was not submitted, I probably would never have watched it, and I would have been missing out on this great show.
Well, here we are.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off. All of us are going to go around in kind of a roundtable fashion, and we're going to ask you a couple of questions. We're going to start off with some career questions, and then we're going to jump into the Cruel Summer conversation. So my first question for you is, when did you know you wanted to be an actor, and how did you get started?
When did I know I wanted to be an actor? I kind of think it was always a part of my DNA. I started at a really young age, kind of becoming immersed and obsessed with theater and some classic films and movies and television. And, you know, starting even at like 4 or 5, I was obsessed with it. I wanted to do every school theater production. I started working at, participating at Lee Strasberg in LA. And, you know, doing all the productions there. I wanted to do Shakespeare in the Park. I think my mom knew from a very young age that she had a lot on her hands with me. And I just loved it. It made me super happy. So yeah, I started in kind of a more school, smaller environment. And as I got older, we kind of decided that we wanted to take the step into it becoming more of a professional dream and professional reality, which was super exciting. And yeah, I started auditioning in LA and New Mexico, where I was living at the time, and it kind of took off from there.
Hi, I'm Kristen Maldonado, and I'm a member of the Hollywood Critics Association, and I would love to know, what is the best piece of advice you've gotten in your career?
What's the best piece of advice that I've gotten in my career? I think it's probably that the good things are not always good and the bad things are not always bad. You never really know where the path's going to take you. And it's usually, most likely, kind of the least expected things that turn into the most exciting things and become the biggest parts of your life. So I think just kind of accepting that, you know, sometimes it gets hard and sometimes that's not always a bad thing. It teaches you a lot and it helps you learn a lot about yourself and about your craft. And I think that potentially out of that can come really amazing work and also, you know, propel your career on an even better path in the future.
Hi, I'm Lauren Huff, and I'm also a member of the Hollywood Critics Association. And I want to know, you've tackled a lot of different genres so far in your career, and I'm curious what you are looking to do next.
What am I looking to do next? I love all the different genres. I think that I enjoy acting so much because I have the ability to explore so many different arenas of this industry. And I've recently been exploring, you know, some drama, horror, gore, thrillers. I love that. And I'd love to continue that, but I'd definitely be interested in maybe participating in something a little lighter, a comedy, a musical. I love musicals. I'd love to do a musical or something like that.
All right. I wanted to jump into Cruel Summer, but now you brought up musicals. I have to ask you, because you're talking to someone who loves musicals. So before we jump into Cruel Summer, real quick, favorite musical?
Oh my God, no, you can't do this to me. There's so many. I mean, musicals are really what kind of developed my love, you know, originally. I think I am in love with Julie Andrews. So, you know, Sound of Music, Mary Poppins, you know, Singing in the Rain with Debbie Reynolds.
Classics, nice.
Yeah, classics. The Wizard of Oz. my dream role ever would be the Wizard of Oz. I mean, all of them. I mean, there's so many. It's hard to choose, but those are definitely some. I mean, I love Hamilton. I don't know, all of them.
All right. No, listen, good answers. I love that you went back to the classics. I love that you went back to the
movies, though. There's also like incredible, Broadway productions as well that I really love. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day.
We'll have to have this conversation in person.
Definitely.
We'll have to have this conversation in person. All right. So your character, Jeanette, I mean, one of the things that I absolutely loved about this character is your performance and how you were able to pretty much transform into 3 different characters. That's what really made your performance stand out to me.
Thank you.
What was that process like? And did you record all those different time periods on the same day, or was it all broken up into different time periods?
So we would hop around quite a bit. It was, we'd start a morning in one year, hop to a different year, hop back, kind of jump around. I mean, most sets aren't, filmed in chronological order. And, we didn't do it sectionally by year. So there was a lot of jumping around. I think that doing the 3 different years was super exciting, and it was a challenge that I was more than up for. I really wanted to do it. It was really just about differentiating those times for her. I think there was an internal life and an internal space that Jeanette was going through, between 93, 94, and 95, which was, super prevalent and important. And I think it just shows how much someone can change in a year, how much, even the slightest things can make such an impact on someone's life. A breakup with a guy, a change with a relationship with your parents, even just, entering high school and, moving to different friend groups and changing the way you look, the way you dress, the way you act. And deep down, it's always the same person underneath, but, it may not seem that way from the outside.
Now, Cruel Summer is at its core a story about 2 girls who are kind of unsatisfied with their current places in life. They're sort of like opposite sides of the same coin. So how did you tackle that in your portrayal of Jeanette?
I think that a big part of it was just having those conversations with my co-star, Olivia. I mean, I've said this before, but the most important relationship in the show is between Jeanette and Kate. I mean, arguably. And interestingly enough, we never worked together. We never had scenes together. We had one scene together in episode 3 and then quite a bit in 10. But although we were friends in life, we never saw each other at work ever. We had completely opposite schedules, completely opposite, co-stars that were working with us, different friend groups, different families. It was, we were very separated. So kind of developing, the underlying details of our relationships was a challenge, being that there wasn't anything to work off on the page regularly. So kind of working through that and developing that together was super exciting. I mean, their relationship even changes so much between 93, 94, 95, even different parts of those 3 years. So it's kind of, keeping it all in your head and remembering, okay, here's where we are today. Here's what's going on. Here's how you feel about Kate. Here's how you feel about this person and that person. That's how they feel about you. And just kind of keeping track of that was super fun.
And you talked a little bit about jumping between the 3 different time periods and all of that. I'm curious, which of the 3 sort of versions of your character, if you will, did you find the most difficult to portray? And also maybe which one was the most fun for you?
Okay. I think I can answer this one. Usually people are like, which one's your favorite? I'm like, I can't choose. I like all of them. They're fun because there's the other ones, they balance each other really well. But I think this is going to be shocking, I think. But the most difficult one for me to play was 94 because there is an element of 94 that is similar to myself. There are certain elements of her, wanting to fit in, wanting to feel cool and calm and collected. And I kind of already went through my dorky phase and I understood that. I knew how that felt. I knew how it felt to want to fit in and want to be, in with the cool kids and do that. And I also knew how it felt. Well, I'm not saying me and 95 have many similarities, but I know how it feels to feel depressed and sad. And there was a lot to work off of there. But surprisingly, sometimes, playing a character that is, at least in the beginning of 94, fitting in and having all these friends and having all these moments and this wonderful boyfriend, it can it can be, challenging, especially because, some of those are things that I'm struggling with in my own life right now. In terms of the most fun, 93 is the best. I mean, who doesn't want to dress up like a kid and hang out with your friends and run around and laugh? She has so much childlike wonder and she's so excited by the world. And part of what's so sad about her journey is you watch her, try to forget this part of herself, thinking that it's not what other people want her to be, when in reality, it's probably the most special thing about her.
So kind of jumping along those same lines, the 3 different years had a very different look, not only visually of each time period in the episodes themselves with cinematography, the color tones and things of that nature, but also the look of your character. You transformed. What was an average day like working with the costume team as well as the hair and makeup team?
It was a long days. They all know me very well. We're very close, very well acquainted at this point. Yeah, I mean, it depended on what day we were going into. I wore a wig in 93 and 95. So that was quite a journey. It was honestly easier to hop between those years because I would already have the wig cap on and I'd be kind of ready. But it could be a big transformation going from 94 to 95 or 95 to 93. And there's a lot of that, especially, mentally, but also, just with the technicals of it, even, the most slight details of a coloration change in the set design or the cinematography or the wardrobe, you'll kind of notice there's some similar tones that they carry throughout the year. And they did an incredible job at being really consistent with those and you feeling at least grounded in where you are and what's going on.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about, some of your favorite scenes to film on set, if there was anything really fun or really challenging or just something really memorable from being on set.
I loved filming episode 5. I have said this before. I loved doing the shared episodes with Olivia. They were super fun, mainly because there was a whole, area of our huge cast that I never got to see. And it was super exciting when our episodes kind of connected a little bit more, just, more from a personal standpoint. We all just love one another so much and we wanted the chance to see each other and work together. But also, I'd never really seen how Olivia was playing Kate or how Andrea was playing Joy Wallace. I think that, being able to see that come to life and, see them walk out in their wardrobe with their hair and makeup done, kind of getting into that was super exciting and fun. Some scenes that were challenging, I mean, there's a lot of it that was challenging. I think that we all just kind of stuck together and, kind of used those moments where things were getting a little bit darker and a little bit harder to kind of propel through the story and bring out the best work that we could.
And I have to know, I'm sure most people would think it's sort of obvious since you played Jeanette, but I do want to know, were you team Jeanette or were you team Kate?
Oh, I'm team Vincent. I think that part of the reason why our story is so special is because although you can take a really strong side and feel a certain way, the truth is something in the middle. The truth isn't what it seems. And I was always team reality. I think that, I had a lot of people on the internet being like, I would die for Jeanette all the way. And then, the opposite being like, screw you, Kate's the best. But I think that, showing that neither of them are perfect and that they're both human and they're both teenage girls who have made mistakes and gone through some severe trauma and abuse is kind of, harrowing to experience and learn about and watch, and then discovering in the end that the truth is something in the middle and it isn't always what it seems. And, there isn't really a good guy or a bad guy. Even on Jamie's journey, he may be the town heartthrob, but he's made some really serious, horrific mistakes with his relationship with Kate and his relationship with Jeanette as well. So, there's a lot of layers to it, I think.
Yeah, there definitely is a lot of layers to the story. And it must be weird to be part of something that has gauged this much interest online. There is like a fandom of sorts around this show. I mean, there is a Twitter following, there is Facebook groups, there is Wikipedia pages dedicated to this show. What is it like for you as an actress, knowing that you've got involved in a project that has this level of fandom to it?
To be honest, I really remove myself from that. I think it's super exciting, and to hear about it is awesome. And I'm so happy that people are loving and enjoying the show. And I want to support that to the max. Reading some of these fan theories are incredible and amazing, and they don't go unseen. But as a human being, I find that to be a little bit overwhelming sometimes. And I think that for me personally, it can be really nice to kind of take a step back from that and just be really proud of the show that we've put together and not get too overwhelmed or invested, because Jeanette and I are separate people. And I love that people get so excited about, all the different ways that it can go and how things can unfold. But I kind of, we did our job, we did our work, it's out there, it's ready for them to watch. And now we're able to kind of take a seat back and take a breather from it.
So a little birdie named Blake Lee told me that you were a bit of a prankster on set. Could you tell us about that?
I am a bit of a prankster. Yes. We had some prank wars on this show for sure. So many, actually. One between me and one of our executive producers, Michelle Purple. Me and Olivia had a bit of a prank war going on. We had our fun. There was at one point 500 stickers of my face printed and covered on my producer's office one morning before she arrived. I don't know who did it, but I definitely saw it, and it looked awesome. There was dresses with our faces made on it. Olivia once hid behind a curtain in a room that I was rehearsing in for 20 minutes and then jumped out and screamed at the top of her lungs. I literally fell to the ground on our last day of filming with the whole crew watching. We had clothespins. We would write little notes on clothespins and stick them on the backs of people's jackets. I once jumped out in the middle of a take with Olivia and Froy and screamed at the top of my lungs, and they caught it on film, and I'm still patiently waiting for the blooper reel to come out so that we can see it. We had a lot of fun, to say the least. It's a dark show, but we had a lot of fun.
I think you have to have fun with a show like that.
Definitely.
I hope Scott doesn't get mad at me for asking this at this point, but I have to know about the final twist of the show. When did you find that out? Did you know early on? Did you find out like last table read? Like, tell me about that, and how did it inform your character once you did find that out?
Yeah, so it had been kind of a big conversation the whole season, from the pilot forward, saying, okay, where are we going to take this? What's going on? What is the end? It changed a couple of times. I think we were discovering it together and finding, what the natural end to this story was. In episode 2, our director, Bill Purple, slipped and said something to me about me and Mallory switching bikes. And that kind of clicked a little switch in my head. And I screamed on set in front of everyone. And I said, oh my God, Mallory has something to do with this. I know this is something to do at the end. They would not admit it to me, but I was sure. So that was the first time I got a little tidbit of where it was going. And then I think episode 3 or episode 4, Michelle and Bill said something to me along the lines of, we know where this is going now. So I was like, you have to tell me. And they wouldn't. And finally, around, I think it was the middle of episode 8, I got a call and they said, it's time. I said, it's time? I said, it's time. And they told me what the final twist was going to be. And I was so excited. I knew a couple weeks before everyone else did, because they wanted to make sure that I had enough time if there's something I wanted to change or any part of it that I felt unprepared with. I had the opportunity to, transform in any way I wanted to. But honestly, the way that they, laid the whole season out, it was the natural end, and it did make sense. And if there was something about it that didn't feel right to any of us, I know we would have had the opportunity to change it. So in the end, we were super happy with it for sure.
Yeah, Lauren and I kind of have a fun back and forth about this show. And I'm going to ask something that she wanted me to ask and dared me to ask you. what's your take on Mallory? Because it seems like people have a very specific take on Mallory.
Yeah. As Chiara, my take is probably a little bit different than Jeanette. I think Mallory has a good heart. I think that it's she has her own character arc and her own journey, and we weren't following her character throughout the season. I think she has a kind of a deep history with her own family and her own experiences in this town. I think that although her intentions are always pure, things don't always come out the right way. And I can relate to that. And I think most of us can, that, she's trying very hard and she wants to keep her friends and she wants to make everyone happy, but she doesn't really know how to go about that. She doesn't know how to have a true friend. She doesn't really know what love or relationship is. Harley, the actress who plays Mallory, is one of my best friends in the whole world. Today is actually her birthday. I was just on the phone with her. She's in New Orleans. She is incredible. And I think she really took, this character in the best way that she could and tried to put her own spin on it and put some flavor and some spice. She definitely has some, sassy moments. She really, takes control of the scene in the moment that she walks into. And I did really enjoy her relationship with Kate. From Jeanette's point of view, she can be bossy and mean and pushy. And I don't think that Jeanette enjoys that very much. But deep down, I think as the show goes on, you'll learn more about her and more of her kind of redeemable qualities, and I think you'll grow to love her just as I have.
For so many people, I think what's so fun about the show is that you're back in the 90s. Like I feel like that's such a nostalgic time period that everyone's obsessed with. So
Yeah.
how did you get into that mindset of being in the 90s? And do you have a favorite kind of song or even like throwback 90s item?
I have all of the 90s things. I love the 90s. I am so obsessed with the 90s right now. I stole so much of my wardrobe. There was a lot of music that we all listened to together, movies. There was pieces from Kate's wardrobe and Jeanette's wardrobe and Mallory's where I kind of was like, oh, I want that in my own life. I think I have them laying somewhere around, but I have the big blocky black platform sandals that Jeanette is wearing throughout the whole season. I went out and bought them, I think like the day after I tried them on in my fitting. I was like, these are so cute. They're like the Steve Madden shoes. And we had some really incredible 90s playlists. Different directors had made them for us. I have some of my own 90s favorites. There was a lot to it. I mean, we love the Cranberries, Zombie and Linger and Creep. All the good ones. There's a lot of there's so much room to play in the 90s. It's a great time period.
It is a great time period. Speaking as somebody who was born in the 90s and misses it a lot, I enjoyed getting to revisit that in the show. We talked about the final twist, but I'm curious, what was the twist that surprised you the most? Was it that final one or was there something else? Because the show goes all over the place.
Yeah, I was surprised by the Annabelle twist. I was surprised by the liar letter twist. I was surprised by the final twist. I think it was very twisty altogether. I was probably most surprised by more of the twists in Olivia's storyline because I just wasn't as aware of what was going on there and I wasn't as involved in those conversations. So I kind of felt like I got to be an audience viewer and learn those with the rest of the cast at a table read or even watching it. There were some things I didn't realize when we had originally filmed it. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. So there's a lot of them for sure.
Going off the 90s, one of the things that I'm watching this show, and I know we're going through 93, 94, 95.
Yes.
And it's so weird because we're so used to technology and the absence of technology in the show, where like today, you're watching all these events unfold in the show and you were like, this would never happen today.
Yeah.
Because the internet would tell you not to do so much of what happens in this show.
Definitely.
So it's almost in a weird way such a refreshing piece of entertainment because it reminds you of the great stuff that we were previously talking about with the songs and the dress and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But also what the world was like before the internet.
Yeah.
Since you were actually born after the 90s, what sort of research did you have to do to play a character who was supposed to be fully grounded in the 90s?
There was a lot of research involved. I grew up with a mom who was very into kind of staying grounded and staying off of technology herself. Obviously, as I got older, I have a cell phone and a laptop and I watch TV and I'm on the internet all the time. But I at least had a little bit of that reference from my own life that kind of informed those decisions. We had a Walkman in the house growing up. We had VCR tapes. So, and cassette tapes. She keeps a lot of that stuff, which I kind of got to explore through a little bit as I was getting ready for this project. There was a lot, there's a lot to look at. I didn't know what chat logs were. Olivia couldn't fit a Walkman in her fanny pack, and it was very overwhelming for her. She didn't understand what it was, how to work it. She was, why is it so large and clunky? I really enjoyed the element that was off of technology. I think it was really helpful. It kept you really grounded in the story, and it kept us all really grounded with one another too. We weren't sitting on set on our phones for 24 hours a day. We were talking to one another and playing card games and getting to know each other better. I think it was really refreshing, and I like a world without technology, at least for a little bit of time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes you just gotta put the tech away for a little bit.
Yeah, we say from a Zoom,
But tech can also connect us.
Definitely, for sure.
I think I would love to hear, you mentioned getting a chance to connect with some of your cast members outside of technology. Did you guys do any like team bonding or things outside, or like how did you guys all connect as a cast, since as you mentioned you weren't all always together?
Yeah. There was a lot of steps to it. I think it was easier than I expected. We clicked very, very easily. We had a group text kind of almost immediately from the pilot forward, and we all just made an effort to get to know one another. And I think as long as you're present in those relationships and you show that you're trying, there's some of us that are closer than others that have developed more off-screen friendships. But when it comes down to it, we all get along with one another, and we all have, mutual respect for our workplace and for our environment. And kind of, developing that and getting to know one another better was one of my favorite parts about doing this show. And I'm still learning about, everyone to this day. I know everyone's families and, their home life. And I think that, that makes this all the more exciting.
For sure. And earlier you talked a little bit about the different, timelines, I guess we can call it, and how you guys didn't shoot chronologically, of course. But I'm curious about how, whenever you guys were talking about just like the show in general and where everything was going, how did you anchor yourself in each different time? Like, did you find that difficult? Like, did you have any tricks to sort of be like, okay, now Jeanette's going through this and this just happened, a week ago, or how did you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, it could be super challenging at times. You're kind of dizzy throughout the day going, okay, where are we? And especially towards the end of filming, even the episodes were overlapping a little bit. So sometimes not only were we trying to keep track of what year we were in, we were also kind of trying to keep track of where we were in that year. Honestly, I heavily relied on my castmates and the crew and our producers and directors. And I got, frustrated sometimes. I would say, where are we? I'm so overwhelmed. What's happening? And I was really lucky because we kind of took a step out. We would all sit down, we'd powwow together, figure it out, and kind of get ready and get up and take charge of the situation. But it wasn't an easy feat. And I think that, that goes across all different departments in all different arenas of the show. We were all just kind of in it together, for sure.
Well, we appreciate your time today. And before I let you go, I want to just end on two questions. The first is, as an actor, what do you hope that the viewer takes away from the show in the end? And then the last thing, of course, is because how could we have a conversation about this without asking about something about season 2? Can you tell us anything about season 2?
Okay, what do I hope the viewer takes away from this show? I hope that they are excited and entertained and have so much joy and so much, what do you call it? I don't know, just excitement from being able to watch our show and watch what we put our blood, sweat, and tears into creating. I think that that's definitely a big part of it. I also hope that they learn that there's a lot of different types of people and evolution is okay and change, and not all people are one-sided. We're three-dimensional humans, and especially as a female character, as a young woman on TV right now, I hope that I did my job of displaying that there is more than one thing happening in someone's head, and it's okay to be complicated, and it's okay to feel overwhelmed and to feel stressed and go through different phases and go through different looks. I think that that's really important, and I hope that we can continue to display that portrayal of the female character today, especially in a show with a female showrunner and female producers and female directors as well. As far as season 2 goes, I think that I can say that we're super excited, and I can't wait to see what Tia comes up with. Whatever it is, I know it's going to be fabulous, and I can't wait to see where this journey goes and how it continues to unfold, and hopefully you guys will be watching it soon.
Yep. Is there, I'm not going to pry because I know you're like sworn to secrecy, but is this supposed to be an anthology? Can you say anything about that?
I think there's a lot of different avenues that they can explore. We want to do the story justice, and we want to take this to whatever place makes the most logical sense and also is the most interesting for our characters and for the audience. So I think that it's still, I'm not really super involved in those conversations, but anything, our options are infinite. And I think that's super exciting. I think that makes me want to go to work and do my job. And kind of see where this goes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chiara. I loved having you.
Thank you.
Lauren and Kristen loved having you and talking with you. If you have not seen Cruel Summer, you can go on Hulu. It is streaming. All episodes are streaming right now. Let's get this girl some Emmy love. And you are welcome, whether you're nominated or not, to attend our ceremony August 22nd. In Los Angeles. You're more than welcome to attend, and we hope you can attend. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was nice to connect with you all.